Now, don't get me wrong. I am not saying that this trade is absolutely what the Montreal Canadiens should have done. I'm not saying that this was the best move possible for Kent Hughes and the Habs. But what I wanted to point out in this video is the realization that now Kent Hughes and the Montreal Canadiens have every right to be pissed off to heck, and it all has to do with Matthew Knies and the Toronto Maple Leafs. You see, if you had followed the reporting and even the videos that we are making here on YouTube over the past few weeks, you would have seen all this talk about Toronto Maple Leafs forward Matthew Knies and the trade rumors and updates that linked him to the Montreal Canadiens. We made a bunch of videos about the trade details, how Knies was going to be a Hab, but how Brad Treliving failed to get the trade submitted by 1 minute. If Treliving was just a minute early when clickety-clacketing those buttons, putting in the trade details into the fax machine, or however it is that NHL GMs submit trades, then Matthew Knies would have been a Montreal Canadien. He would be a Canadian now into the end of 2032 at $7.75 million, and he would have been a Canadian during the 2026 Stanley Cup Playoffs, when the Habs went to the third round and lost to the inevitable Stanley Cup champions in Carolina. With that said, the reason Kent Hughes has all the right to be upset now is because of what Marco D'Amico said yesterday afternoon. This is great. This is a great way to start out the show today because this is not going to happen immediately, at least. But Marco D'Amico said yesterday, Matthew Knies looks very much in play at this point. The Leafs are not assured to move him, but talks are intensifying there too. Essentially saying that Matthew Knies, even though he can be seen as one of the primary targets in trade talks, it doesn't seem like he's going to get traded just yet, and I'm betting on that because I'm recording this audio on the night of Wednesday, June 24th. If by the time Knies actually is traded and this video comes out after that trade, then okay, you can shoot me if you want. Marco D'Amico then replied to his report yesterday, saying that word of discussions with Buffalo and the 4th overall pick for Matthew Knies have ensued. San Jose is also said to be of interest as well. Montreal remains interested, but it's hard to compete with the above teams. And this is where things get infuriating for Kent Hughes and the Montreal Canadiens. You're telling me that Matthew Knies was going to be a Hab for a reported trade price that included Alexander Zhuravsky, Bryce Pickford, and another draft pick, but now you're seeing teams like Buffalo with the 4th overall draft pick expressing interest in Knies. You're seeing teams like San Jose with picks number 2 and picks number 9 also expressing interest in Matthew Knies. The San Jose Sharks also have pick number 27. They have 3 first-round picks. Buffalo has 20 as well. These are the teams that Montreal is technically competing against right now to get Knies in a trade. If Brad Treliving just got the trade done sooner, back in March, Matthew Knies would have been a Montreal Canadien for a much cheaper price than essentially a 4th overall pick or a 9th overall pick kind of package would have given you. For what it's worth, you can say Brad Treliving saved the Toronto Maple Leafs, and that actually is a video that we made 2 weeks ago as well. Because Matthew Knies stuck around with the Toronto Maple Leafs, the season finished the way that it did. Toronto ended up winning the draft lottery, and Knies, it looks like, as a trade option in a seller's market in the 2026 offseason, he could fetch the Toronto Maple Leafs a much bigger haul than what the Canadiens were reportedly going to give up to get him back at the trade deadline. This was talked about on the R Habs subreddit. It was posted by VJux, D'Amico speaks out about Matthew Knies, and then there are the same tweets that we had looked at. Obviously, this is on the Habs subreddit, so all the comments here are going to be from Canadiens fans. Top reply says it's sad that Brad Treliving is so incompetent that he could not send the last deal in time. We can't pay those current prices. With all the trades going on, I'm kind of pissed off that this Knies trade didn't get done. The only reason this trade was on the table to begin with is because he's a terrible GM. No surprises it fell through due to paperwork issues. If we really want this trade to happen, we'll have to overpay, as Ken said he would in the past for the right player. Is Knies that player, though? Gosh, Kent Hughes deserves all the right to be frustrated as all hell, because he spent his entire trade deadline trying to go after this dude, wasn't really able to go out there and exercise his options in other trades, and this trade for Matthew Knies went right down to the wire, and then some. It crossed the finish line 1 minute too late, and the Montreal Canadiens exited the trade deadline with nothing of this magnitude coming on to their team. There's a reason why we got the Don Vito Corleone, Kent Hughes Godfather picture over there. But either way, prices are getting really, really high these days. It's very tough to see what could have been in the past, and when you acknowledge that trade price for Matthew Knies back in March, comparing it to what apparently is in play now. Are you kidding me? The 4th overall pick is going to be the Knies trade price? Are you saying Toronto has a chance to get the 1st and 4th overall selections? Ay. Just repeat the entire Sedin story now, would ya? Another reply goes out there and says, we would need to include Hage if the 4th overall pick is on the table. I like Knies, but goodness gracious, he is overrated right now. Is Hage even worth the 4th overall pick? I mean, he's good, but he's not even 100% a center yet. And then another reply says a 4th overall is still a high chance to bust for a center. I have trauma from Drouin, Galchenyuk, Kotkaniemi, Doc, and those that were picked 3rd overall. Great connection there, by the way. We've been mentioning this talking point over the past few years, but it's very interesting how Montreal Canadiens hockey has been littered with the shadows and hopes and dreams of former 3rd overall picks from yesteryear. All 4 of these guys were Habs at some point, and it's kind of funny to acknowledge that none of them really sustained any legitimate top-tier point production for a considerable amount of time. I know Galchenyuk had his stretches, and Drouin had that one season, but still. The important part about being opportunistic is to not participate in a bidding war. We can't compete with 2nd and 4th overall. Let's move on, guys. Knies is not the only game in town. If the trade happened at the deadline and we had him for the playoff run, things may have turned out different, but now, the price doesn't make sense. So, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Marco D'Amico's update that the Montreal Canadiens are still interested in Knies, but the competing teams have such big packages compared to what the Canadiens were prepared to give up for Knies last time, that it doesn't really feel like a realistic scenario for Montreal to acquire this player at all anymore. Do you think Kent Hughes is foaming at the mouth with rage based off of what happened? Do you think he has the right to be pissed off with the Toronto Maple Leafs and Brad Treliving especially? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this Vrisha 99. And bye.